Jessica had just finished months of grueling military training, exhausted, crammed into a middle seat on an overbooked flight. Then, out of nowhere, a stranger in a suit stopped her. His next words froze her in place. "Ma'am, you're in my seat, but I'm not asking you to move." What he did next left the entire row staring, and Jessica fighting back tears. Jessica sighed when she saw how cramped the plane was. This was looking like it would be a long flight to the United States. Her assigned seat confirmed her feelings. It was going to be a long flight, and she had no idea how bad it would be. However, when she reached her seat, a man approached her and did not let her take her seat. Confused, she didn't understand what was happening. When he opened his mouth to explain, she understood everything. She knew she could not stand such behavior. Jessica had been a military trainee for some time. Although her training had taught her how to cope with different situations, she lost her temper with this situation. She was confused as she didn't know what he wanted. In 2017, the military comprised only 16% of women. Although a small number, it saw a steady increase as the years went by. She had chosen a path less traveled, and perhaps this played a role in her current ordeal. She was going home to spend the holiday with her family. Being so far away from home, she had to put on a brave face to serve her country. She had really missed her family. Flights can be overwhelming and very stressful experiences, as there usually isn't much room for comfort. Despite this, it is still the most effective way to travel, Jessica thought. But there was something different about this flight. An economy ticket was cheaper and less comfortable, but Jessica didn't mind. Now, let's admit it, who does not dream of a more comfortable journey? Unfortunately, economy seats are much cheaper than business class and first class. Jessica knew that it was like that, but it didn't bother her that much. She wanted to go home. The flight was overbooked and tight, and there were eyes on her. It was probably related to the shortage of women in the military, as people were often astounded to see a woman in uniform. It wasn't easy for her to be in the military. She was risking her life for her country. And like all women in the military, she deserved some respect. However, this man came up with a plan that included her. He wasn't just looking at her out of curiosity. Jessica had no idea how her day would turn out. Her seat number was clearly written on her boarding pass. Her seat, 31B, was at the back of the plane. Jessica had no idea that someone was talking about her when she was looking for her seat. This stranger approached the flight attendant and expressed his concerns. When she reached her seat, she tucked her bag into the overhead compartment and sat down. But it took some time for the plane to take off, and no one knew what was causing the delay. Jessica knew something was wrong, but it was out of her hands. She tried to make the best of the situation, but staying in a cramped space for 20 more minutes was not something she was looking forward to. Delays are often caused by bad weather, but the sky was clear that day. She wanted to ask about it, but couldn't find any flight attendant. Suddenly she heard nervous whispers around her. She didn't understand what was going on. Jessica saw that the crew was acting strangely. They rushed to a corner and talked in hushed tones. She was certain something was wrong. They were talking about a passenger approaching her at the time. She had done nothing to attract attention to herself, other than wear a uniform. She watched him closely, wondering what she should do. Her training had prepared her for many situations, but this. The flight attendants chuckled a little, covering their faces with their hands. It was clear that this was not a standard part of the procedure. Jessica didn't like to feel like she was in the dark. She didn't mind the whispers and looks she got in her uniform. But this was something else. Even though she chose to look beyond it, she felt on the edge the whole time. She could always count on what she learned when needed. Still, she didn't want any trouble that day. Although she was not working, it was impossible to tell when the threat to be neutralized would arise. Even though her training was incredibly tiring and intense, it made things easier. She noticed him walking towards her. He was a tall guy. Jessica also noticed that he was quite a handsome guy, with blue eyes and delicate features. It helped that he was dressed elegantly in a suit and tie. Was he going to ask for her number? It was within the realm of possibility, as he moved toward it with both purpose and confidence. She had seen it many times in the past. But when he spoke to her, she was surprised. Her mind raced as he continued to walk toward her. It felt like an eternity before he was right in front of her. It turned out that she was right, that he wanted something from her. It seemed like his intentions were written on his face. However, when he opened his mouth, she was stunned by what he said. What did the handsome stranger want with her? He turned to her and asked her a question. It turned out that Jessica was wrong, that he didn't want her number. He also did not ask about her service in the army. Instead, he pointed to her seat. Apparently, everything he wanted from her had something to do with it. He walked over to her and pointed to the seat. He didn't even miss the moment when he told her that her seat was already taken. She looked around, eyes wide. How can this be true? I'm sitting in your place, the man said. She didn't know what he meant. What does your ticket say? He asked. What? No, I have a 31B, she insisted. There was no way she would be lying, as it was clearly stated on her ticket. She checked, knowing she was right. Was he playing some twisted game with her? Jessica glanced at the flight attendants. To her surprise, they just nodded. She was confused about what was going on. Was he delusional? It didn't make any sense. He was dressed and looked out of place on that side of the plane. However, the flight attendants seemed to support him. Everything became clear when she heard what he had to say next. The stranger tried to convince her that since she was a soldier, she could not occupy such a place. He told her it was admirable how hard she had worked to keep Americans safe, and that she should be sitting elsewhere. She let him tell her his piece. As you can imagine, when she got on the plane, she didn't expect such a strange situation to happen with her in the lead role. Something incredible was happening. The man told her that he would be honored if she exchanged tickets with him as a token of gratitude. He wanted to thank her for all the hard work she was doing for the nation. And his seat was in business class. Jessica couldn't believe it. It was too much, so she tried to dismiss it. However, he insisted. At the time, she had no idea it wasn't over, and finally decided to step down. Jessica finally accepted his offer. She got up and headed for the aisle again. She did not expect this at all. However, the comfortable and spacious seats were too great a temptation for her to resist. Jessica was worried because there was no way she could repay him. Even so, She was tired from so much hard work he had done lately. Her whole body was in pain. But did she really deserve it? It didn't matter to her. She was very happy. Jessica was just glad that she was coming home after a long time away. She considered it her reward after so much hard work and was stunned when this nice stranger offered her something she couldn't afford with her own money. She had many questions for the man who decided to give way to her on the plane. She didn't understand what it was about, but she was grateful for the kind gesture